Okay, in this video we're going to take on a slightly tricky process of a slipped magnet. Doesn't happen too often, but when it does, quite often the speaker is not repairable, purely because of the time and effort required to do this repair. Makes it not viable economically. However, sometimes it has to be done. Now we're just going to zoom in and you can see I've removed most of the cone and the dust dome. On this driver there is a gap that side, and if we spin it round that side you can see there's no gap. This central pole piece is pinched against the voice coil here and against the front plate of the chassis. So the voice coil here it won't move. That side moves. On that side I can't move that at all. It's been pinched, it's stuck, it won't come out. So I'm going to go through the process of how we go about fixing this. This one we haven't done yet, but there was another one came in with this which we've already stripped apart. So just to save showing you the long process of how this is done, I'm just going to swap that one. And if I turn it upside down, you can see a bit more clearly. There's the big gap on one side, no gap on that side, because in that magnetic field, that's where all the force from the magnet, and it's basically pulling across from the outside to the inside through that gap, and that's what gives you the force for your speaker to work. It just pulls one to the other and pinches the voice coil. At that point, your speaker stops working. So we're going to just go through the process of how we get this apart. It's a bit tricky. The magnetic forces are very strong. You can easily, in this, get your finger pinched in that gap. It will hurt. So I don't advise you to do this. But if you do it, be very careful. So first thing I've done is I put a lump of wood here because I need to hit this with a chisel to pull apart the magnet and the back plate, and I don't want this chassis to move. So I've just put that up against something solid so I can apply a bit of force from this side. And getting in the chisel, I'm going to use the flat on the bottom against the magnet so I don't damage the magnet. Give it a few whacks and just try and get in and make a little bit of a gap. With the voice coil in place and some of the goo in place, that's a lot harder. You can easily waste 10-15 minutes getting to this point, simply because it just doesn't want to budge and you've got to keep banging it and moving it around. Once you're in there, it gets gradually easier. You can get some wooden wedges in and work your way around to loosen the magnet from all sides. So just continue working my way around, enlarging that gap. The further you get that away, the less the magnetic force is. So gradually, as you lever it apart, it becomes easier to work on. I'm using wooden wedges. The last thing you want to do here is put a lump of metal in that gap, because that's just going to allow the magnetic force to continue. So you need to put something non-magnetic in the gap and slowly just get these apart. And once you've got maybe a gap of about 2 centimeters, you've got a chance of pulling this apart. It's not easy, but once you get it to this point, the forces just aren't there and I can just put it back and we have it apart. So in this instance, the glue had failed between this face and this face. It had also failed on the underside of the magnet to the chassis. You can see I can move the magnet around and it's slopping around. So there's nothing holding the magnet in place. Sometimes with the slip magnet, only one side fails. It might be this side or it might be the other side. You need to figure this out before you start. On this instance, it's both, so I can just completely strip it apart. I've got the back plate off. I can slide the magnet sideways. It's a lot easier than trying to push it, lift it up, because I'm not pushing all the magnetic force. I can slide it sideways. Comes up relatively easy. I now have a magnet, a chassis with the front plate and the back plate. These have already been cleaned up, but the next stage would be to clean all of these, scrape all the old glue off, rough it up and make sure that the glue will key into this.